Continuing on Interstate 22. This might be Tupelo right here. I'm really not sure. But I just got fuel, and because the driver in front of me pulled forward and then stopped to where I was able to get fuel, he went in and had a 15-minute break inside the Pilot. It only takes me 9 minutes to fuel, so I was sitting there waiting for 6 minutes that I could have used as my break time out of the 30-minute break to run in and get some Arby's myself, but I had to wait with the vehicle until I was able to pull forward. So just unfortunate. Didn't get anything to eat, but I did make a new coffee. Replied to some of the comments on the 100 subscriber giveaway. Reconfirmed the truck stop that I want to park at for the weekend. I should get there at about 3:15 to 3, well, maybe even 3 o'clock this afternoon. I think the Army game is later. The Army Notre Dame game is later today. So looking forward to that. If I'm able to get tucked away in time, I'll take an Uber to the sports bar if I have to be able to watch the game. I don't have a TV in the truck. I'm not even sure what there is there in Bentonville, but I'll find out once I get there. Do the proper post-trip. I did make a video yesterday on the pre-trip of the tractor itself. It should be fairly straightforward. You break it down into threes. So top, middle, bottom, left, center, and right. You got the wheel, which is the tire, the rim, and the lug nuts. You have the brake chamber. It has the airline in. It has the S-cam in it. Then you have the discs with the pads, or the drum with the pads. So that basically is how you can inspect one wheel at a time. And then starting on the passenger side compartment, you don't have much to look at. You have all of the cabling properly fastened and secured. You have the exhaust side of the engine. No leaks or residue that could be from an exhaust leak. You can also smell to see if you can detect an odor. From there you move on down to the bottom of the engine block. You have the alternator and the belts. They can't be torn, worn, or frayed. They have to have good tension on them. And then you have the air dryer up front. Inspect the passenger steer tire or steer wheel the same way as you do the driver's side. And that basically takes you through the process of inspecting the engine compartment. You then move over to the driver's side of the engine compartment. And on that side you have the steering column and the steering mechanism. You have the air compressor, which is difficult to locate. It's near the back of the engine, and that one is gear driven. And it should come on at 100 psi or lower, and then it should turn off at about 125 psi. So that's the operation of the air system itself. You want to check the intakes. As these Freightliners get older, the two rearmost intake nozzles tend to leak, and that's when you'll get that oil film, the fuel film coming off of those. And then you have the suspension. You have the shock absorber and the spring. For the airbag systems, you have the airbag. Again, properly mounted and secured, everything looks normal. You can physically touch it and wiggle it to make sure that it's secured if you're doing the inspection as part of your test. So that simplifies the memorization process. I just did all of this off the top of my head, basically from memory, just by going through it step by step in sequence using blocks of 3. If you get less than a 70% on the pre-trip inspection during the exam, you're done for that test. You failed. And that's why it gives so many new drivers or truck driving students a lot of concern and worry when if they follow the simple process of breaking it down into 3s, then you are more likely to remember it. And after doing the engine compartment, just close it up. Move to the rear of the tractor, to the drive axles. Again, inspecting the wheels, the suspension. Add in the drivetrain. You have the front drive shaft that is coupled. That goes into the first differential. From the first differential to the second differential on the second axis, on the second axle. And then you have the fifth wheel plate to ensure it's properly mounted and secured. It has 7 bolts on each side, I believe. At least for this Cascadia it does. So you check it, make sure that each of those nuts are in place and they're secure. You can't move that bolt at all, or that nut. You have an interlocking mechanism for those fifth wheels that have the ability to slide. If you press the button here in the cab, which I never slide the fifth wheel, but you have the ability to release air from those fifth wheel locking pins. They retract. If you're connected to a trailer with the brakes set, you're able to move that fifth wheel just by moving the truck forward or back. It's very, very difficult to do. It should be a last resort. There's only one instance where I should have slid the fifth wheel, but I didn't. It was a 79,800 pound load. With the tandems, the dual axles on the trailer, you are able to slide those forward and back. Each pin or each hole represents about 500 pounds transferred from the drive axles to the trailer, or vice versa. So that's 79,800 pounds. There was no way I could do an in-between. One time the trailer tires were over, the second time the drive tires were over. I decided to leave it on the drive tires being over, knowing that I'd burn fuel. Every gallon of diesel is about 7 pounds. So if I was able to burn off about 70 gallons, that would make me legal. For those of you that are doing the math in your head, or you even write it down, you would need 300 pounds, right? So that's about 45 gallons. But just to be safe and to be under a threshold of the scales, getting pulled in and checked, yeah, about 70 gallons would make it good. Because not all the fuel in the tank goes to the drive. Some of it does go to the steer tires. You're correct. Anyway, that's just my pre-trip inspection routine that I follow and how I do it. Maybe it will help some of you pass the test if you take it. Then I did the trailer inspection when I connected to it in the drop lot. So that's one video that may be helpful for those that that wants to start trucking but's worried about the inspection process. They've heard that it's very tough. It's not. It's fairly straightforward. After you do it a few times, you remember the steps, you'll be good to go. But that one video right there is the start of the Trucker Johnny YouTube truck driving school. I'll just make it a playlist instead. Okay, I guess that was Tupelo, Mississippi. Got about 60 miles until we get onto the 240 outer loop of Memphis. Then onto the 55. One lane, going through the construction zone and up onto the bridge. And then west on Interstate 40. From there, about 2.5 to 3 hours to get over to Interstate 49. About an hour north to get into the Bentonville area. So about 6 hours remaining. I think I tried to reply to every comment that has been made on the channel. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to write something to me. Just lets me know I'm not doing this just for myself. And here is a math question for those of you that might be interested in the math series. How do you find the measurement of an angle? How do you calculate that if it is not a right triangle? Comment below what the formula is. I'd be interested to see how many of you know that. For those of you that are more algebra inclined, x squared minus 6 equals 0. What does x equal? A lot of you are typing right now, square root of 6. Good job. Now if you expand it a little bit more, x squared plus 2x plus 1 equals 0. That simplifies down to x plus 1 in parentheses, the entire thing squared. How do you explain that to a teenager or even somebody at junior high now that's doing algebra at that young an age? Basically, if you take that x, replace it with a paper bag from McDonald's where you're getting food, what's in the bag from McDonald's? Even though you ordered a quarter pounder with cheese meal, what's inside the bag? You don't know until you open it. That's the same way that you can treat x in mathematical equations. You have to find out what it is. And it can change. It is not one set number. That's how you can explain a variable, even to a grade schooler nowadays. In order to teach them how to calculate a formula, tell them you are taking the trip somewhere. It's X distance. If you're able to drive 70 miles an hour on the freeway, how long does it take you to get there? And then just by using the distance is equal to rate times time formula, they're able to learn that formula easily. Say, oh yeah, if we're going down to Orlando, Florida, and it's 700 miles, it takes us 10 hours to get there. You say, good job, but what about your break for fueling? So you can make math fun for kids at an early age to where they don't get the stigma that math is difficult. Some math can be. I was fortunate to be able to take 7 semesters of math in college. I think I took 7 or 8 electrical engineering courses, 5 physics. So I have a decent background in math. I scored a 740 on my SAT. I think I knew the 2 questions that I missed at the time. So it's always been something I've been good at. I don't take it for granted. You have to practice it all the time. But this could be a course that's beneficial to truckers' kids and to kids who have military parents, or even the truckers and the military themselves, if they would like to get into learning math a simplified way. And it all builds off of adding and subtracting, multiplying and dividing in your head. And I provide a couple of techniques that you're able to do that with. And it's based on the symmetry of math to simplify everything. Then if you're trying to solve an equation, you have those basic fundamentals that allow you to do it quicker than most people, which would afford you additional time on the remainder of the test. It's a good skill for these younger kids to pick up. Instead of typing 12 times 7 into their smartphone, they can immediately answer, oh, that's 84. Oh, really? What about the square root of 169? Oh, that's 13. How did you remember that? I saw it once. And now their memory starts to become a skill that they have. And the quicker that they acquire skills at that age, the more confidence they build, the better they perform. I think I'd provide a lot of value to everybody that's helped me out so far. If you're able to share that with some friends. And this guy right here, Amazon, what are you doing hiring drivers like that? That is a guy driving a semi-truck that's trying to intimidate a car to move over. I'm sorry, I don't think he was an American. Based on my 9 years of overseas work. So I already have the PowerPoint presentation put together for all of the modules, the videos that I'll create. I'll be able to research and write the 3 different math books fairly quick. I know most of the areas that must be included, and then a couple extra chapters with my take, some real world problem solving chapters. Explain how the math is used in everyday operation, how important it is for physics. If you're interested in a physics book as well, let me know. I think with 30 hours on a weekend and usually about 2 hours per day, if I start focusing in on those while maintaining one video per day based on my work that day, I think I'd be able to get it all put together in about 3 to 5 months. So that's a little bit longer plan. So usually while I'm driving, I do play YouTube videos. So I've started to learn about artificial intelligence. Most everybody just says, oh, just get ChatGPT now. But there's actually more and more versions, programs of artificial intelligence coming out now. It's becoming more competitive. But the fundamentals of it with the computer science programming, the math involved to be able to create the algorithms, and understand how the PyTorch was created, which is the Python programming. It's the AI concept explained a little bit better. So it relies heavily on probabilities, and because of the advancements in the computing power, meaning the memory and then the computing process itself, which performs trillions of matrix calculations. And I believe the matrix multiplication, both the cross and the dot products, are in the calculus series. But to be able to put all of those together to create the book would be the fun part of it. And then to create 30-minute videos while I drive would just be easy. I would have to have an assistant, I think, to be able to go through the slide deck as I'm talking, to do a Zoom call. But to be able to pull each slide up from memory and to know which slide we're on, because I've made them and put them in a sequence that's easy for me to remember, it would be easy to discuss it. And then on the Saturday Twitch calls or Twitch sessions, just to be able to answer any of the questions that people have about math. That would be fun. So if you think this would be of value for you, please subscribe, like, and share. I've already had 75 shares, so that was probably the most impressive to me, that you guys are sending this to people you know. Okay, that's it for now. Back to driving.